In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your coolant on this Ford F-150. We're going to talk about how to drain it properly and how you can correctly fill it. It's important that you do this right so that your engine does not overheat. Let's get started. Let's start by draining the coolant. Go into the passenger side wheel well.
And if you keep looking towards the radiator, you'll see the petcock right there.
Sometimes you can pull this fender liner out like this, and that gives you a little bit better access. There it is, right there. If you reach your hand in, you should be able to crack it open, spin it counterclockwise, have a collection bucket underneath. There we go. Just let that drain. Remove the radiator cap so it can drain faster. And once it's done draining, I mean, it's not completely done. You can wait longer, but I would call this done. It's just slowly dripping out of here. Let's cap this off. Make sure that petcock is nice and tight so that you don't have any leaks. Okay. Nice and snug. Obviously, don't break it off. This is just plastic, and it screws into a plastic fitting on the radiator, so it's very delicate, but make sure it's tight. At this point, you want to clean off any residue that you see here on the frame. Make sure it doesn't continue dripping, not just so that you don't contaminate the ground, but you don't want to mistake this for a potential coolant leak, if there actually is one. And if you ended up taking off the push clip for the fender liner, go ahead and snap it back in. Now that you have the coolant drained, you might ask, should I flush it or should I not? If the coolant was in decent condition, I wouldn't. But if you have to flush it, what you want to do is get distilled water. Don't just use tap water because it does have minerals in it. You want mineral-free water. Fill up the radiator and let the truck run. With the engine running, it'll circulate that water through the system and it will clean out everything that is in there that you don't want in there. Ideally, you'd want the thermostat to open. That way it can circulate everywhere, and then drain it again. So it is a somewhat lengthy process. And then do the same process over and over and over until you achieve the result that you want, which is basically clear, clean water coming out of there. It could take up to 10 different times to flush everything out of there. At that point, you're gonna wanna drain as much as possible out of the system. And when it comes to filling it, you can pour antifreeze directly into the radiator, but it does make things a lot easier if you have a spill-proof funnel. This also helps the bleeding procedure. Comes with this adapter, well, many, but this one fits this particular truck. A radiator cap that basically goes around this adapter and the funnel itself. It all locks in and seals. It also has a plug that helps you stop the flow once it's full. And in here, you can pour your antifreeze. And in here, you can pour your coolant. And now that you've filled up the funnel with coolant, you'll see that it's gonna wanna bubble. And as it's bubbling, you can also massage the upper radiator hose. That'll get out some extra bubbles. That's just air naturally rising to the top because now this is gonna be the highest point in the cooling system. So air is gonna wanna be pushed here. Once it stops bubbling, it will be time to turn the engine on and let the water pump do its job, push the air out, pull the water in, or the coolant, and bleed the system basically, get all the air out of there. So let's do just that. Of course, if you're running your vehicle in a garage, make sure it's well ventilated. I have an exhaust fan that I'm gonna hook up. If you're outside, you're good to go. Here we go. At this point, we just have to wait for the truck to warm up and bleed the system basically. Now let's go inside the truck and I'll show you exactly what to do the proper bleeding procedure. In here, what you want is to turn the heat all the way up, AC off. You want to make the blower blow on the vents. Now it doesn't really matter, but it's easier to feel when it's on vents. You want to feel that the air gets warm. The blower, you want it somewhere on the lower settings. If you blast it, it could actually prevent the engine from warming up faster, so it's just easier if you have it low. You can still feel air coming through. What you're looking for is to feel heat. That's also why you want the AC off. You want the engine to heat up as fast as possible, and at this point, we just let it run and wait for it to warm up. You also want to pay attention to your temperature gauge. That's this one right here. Make sure that it stops somewhere around halfway. If it goes past it, and especially if it starts getting into the hot zone, it's overheating, shut it down, let it cool, and turn it back on. Most likely it's just an air pocket. As it warms up, you can give it some revs to help it bleed. If you watch the coolant funnel as I rev it, there you go, it bubbles out. Truck's been running for a while. I'd say about 15 minutes now. The thermostat has opened, it has bubbled up quite a bit. The engine has reached operating temperature and has stayed there, so I know it's good. Let's turn it off, and then I'm gonna wait for it to cool down. A lot of times it will suck some of this coolant back in, and then we'll fill the overflow with the leftover. Before you put this plug in here, instead of just putting it in and leaving it, squeeze the upper radiator hose a little bit, and then put the plug in. Once you do that, you should be able to pull this away with almost no spillage at all, because squeezing the upper radiator hose makes fluid go into the funnel, and then plugging it prevents it from returning back. So as soon as you pull it, air will rush in, but obviously not a lot, just enough to prevent you from spilling. Take the adapters off if you use them, and put your radiator cap back on. Right next to the air filter housing, you'll see your coolant overflow. It says it right here, radiator coolant only. Pop the cap off. There's a fill line right here. It's actually a cold fill, but we're just going to go to the bottom of it for the hot fill. When it's hot, it actually comes up a little further. So remove the plug here, and I'm just gonna drain the rest of this in here. Perfect, that actually brought us right to the low mark of the cold fill. Like I said, for the hot fill, it will be a little bit higher. So there you have it. Coolant is bled and topped off.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.